Let's do this. Next up, we have Streets of Desolation from the Batman NES game. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I am a professionally trained musician / composer, and my goal here is to explain things to you in a way that you don't have to be a trained musician to understand what is happening here musically. If you like the sound of that and you're watching on the YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, you like the video, share the video, all that good stuff. This is recorded live on stream, so there's going to be a lot of pausing, and we're doing all of this in one shot. So I'm going to be pointing things out as I hear them and all that. So let's do this. Streets of Desolation from Batman from the NES. I don't even know what year this is from, so let's go. Okay, so we are starting with this extremely classic old school sound of the 8-bit engine. This is 8-bit music. This is the one of the earliest forms of music that we have in the digital world. 8-bit sound. The tricky thing about 8-bit music is that the entire sound engine could only play up to 3 notes, 3 sounds at any given time. Composer is Naoki Kodaka. Thank you. So composed by Naoki Kodaka. And the thing with 8-bit music is that you only have 3 layers. You can only have 3 sounds at any given time, including the sounds of the game. The most famous example, of course, is Super Mario Brothers, because it's one of the earliest games for this. Whenever you had a Mario do anything in this game, you had the music that was playing in all 3 channels, and whenever Mario jumped, one of the layers would get cut off to play that sound. So what we're having right now is we are having and it all is based off of MIDI. Retro gameplay is awesome. Retro games are awesome. They're great. So if you want to see this for yourself, just go play Super Mario Brothers or any NES games, and you will notice that the soundtrack, part of the soundtrack, the layers will cut off because the computing power at the time could only handle up to a certain amount of sounds at the same time. With 8-bit, it was 3 sounds. So in the game, sounds from characters are, it's not that they're 1-bit, they're 1 layer. So 8-bit music had 3 layers of sound. 8-bit is just the amount of computing power. Right now, nowadays we are 32 and 64-bit computing. That's just the technical terms. I am not entirely sure of all the ins and outs of that, but that is it for the sound design and for music. That is the limitations that they had. This is 1989, the same as the movie. Nice. So that's what you meant. There you go. So yeah, potato tomato, right? So we have right now what is called MIDI. MIDI is one of the most used types of computing in music ever. We still use it to this day. MIDI is just virtual instructions for music. Basically, when you have, it's cheaper to have a MIDI track. It was cheaper back then to have a MIDI track play with the sound engine than it was to set a sound file. So what you had is that you had basically a piano built in to your good old sound thing. You had your piano doing all this stuff. Imagine this is a piano. Imagine this is a virtual piano built in to the engine of your sound. So don't forget, these games were kilobytes in size because we didn't have the technology back then to hold the gigabytes that we have right now. I assure you, this Paint document over here is already bigger in size than the entirety of the Super Mario Brothers game. So how do you fit a soundtrack into this? You can't fit a sound file into a 1 megabyte thing when the entire game is less than 1 megabyte. So what you do is that you set up MIDI. And what MIDI is going to do is that it's going to tell the keyboard in the sound here, it's going to tell it, hey, at this time, you're going to play this note. At this time, you're going to play this note. At this time, you're going to play this note. That's layer 1. Layer 2, at this time, you're going to play this note. At this time, you're going to be this note and this note and this note. So when you have those older games, so NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, these super early consoles, the music that you are getting is not pre-recorded music, it's pre-programmed music that is being played live for you. You're getting a live performance with the engine whenever you're hearing 8-bit music. So only music was multi-layered. At the time that you had 3 layers, and it wasn't just for the music, it was for the entire thing. So the sound effects of anything crashing or the character jumping or anything like that was also within those 3 layers. So you had the MIDI sample over here that would have to figure out, okay, we have these samples of sound that the computer can make, and we have to figure out both music and sound effects for this. So right now, we are having the first layer in this track playing super low, super low, and playing some notes in a fairly tricky way to make it sound like it is both a guitar and a drum set at the same time, giving us a beat and everything like that. Then we have another layer coming in with the melody. With that out of the way, now that I've explained MIDI, let's continue. So yeah, you have one layer that is playing the drum set, which is basically still just these same notes that you have, these same sound samples that you have available, and it's basically just telling you to play it in a certain way. You have one layer playing the melody. So yeah, you have one layer that is kind of like the bass. Then you have another layer that is the drums, and you have another layer that is the melody. And the melody is now carrying the motif. Motif being, of course, the smallest version of the musical idea that you have, the seed from which everything else comes from. Let me lower the volume a little bit, it's a little loud in my headphones. So yeah, you can hear... So yeah, you could hear there were 3 notes playing at the same time, and everything else kind of had to play in between. You could hear that. The chords play in between the drum beats, the bass had to stop, and as soon as the chord finished, the melody started sounding, the chord kind of didn't echo anymore. It can't echo because it has to start playing the other samples. So this is the limitation of 8-bit computing, and we're having this as a creative challenge for the composer. So now we're going back, basically playing the motif once again. Very fun motif, by the way, very fun theme. Then we come to a variation. So we are doing, structurally, we are doing what seems to be an A, B, probably another A. We might have another A. We're still a little bit early, but let's see where we go. Technically an AA, but we'll see. We have this solo sounding, which, don't forget, this was programmed into the sound engine to sound exactly this way. It sounds like a keyboard solo, but it sounds like almost like an improvised keyboard solo, but it's very carefully crafted so that it's not. Yeah, we come to this other variation. This is definitely B section. Go back to A with a couple of small variation. There we go. Very lovely. Back to A. So yeah, we had a very short B section, and we are back to A. Let's see. Very cool theme that we have. and we're repeating. So we are doing an A, B, A, B. We might just be looping this whole thing because the soundtrack is fun enough as it is. You can just loop it all over the place. You can just loop this the whole way around. Should be good enough for a whole stage, especially at the time. And it saves you space as well. If you create the whole MIDI instructions and everything, and then instead of just making another minute of it, you just tell it, okay, just play it again. Just play it again. That saves you half the space back then. All programmers had to be really creative with their wizardry with fit everything. Cartridges and floppies were not ideal. Yep, especially because, yeah, cartridges were very, very limited in space. They had to figure out the storage. And this is using old tech as well. Yeah, so this is very impressive feats of technology. No fancy computer programs. Everything was kind of coded with ones and zeros. Binary code. Again, 8-bit coding is pretty much binary. So programming languages were very, very difficult very different back then than they are right now. And we are hearing this play out. So yeah, we go back to that B section with this solo. Yeah, this sounds like it's between a synth and a guitar kind of thing. Like we're getting this rock band sound with this old MIDI. It sounds so fun. B section. We're still in B section. Back to A. Back to A prime. So yeah, we've been doing A, B, A prime, B prime. Prime being, of course, whenever this is a fairly classical way of looking at this the structure. A, section A, we have the introduction, and we have the theme and everything when it's playing right now. And it goes all the way over there. B section is like that little solo that we have. A prime is a variation. It's the same, but not really. We've added a couple of extra things. No prefab engines or store assets. Everything was built from the ground up. Yeah. It's such a good theme, too. And when it comes to retro gaming, the importance of having a solid melody, drum computer, it was like the whole thing, the drum as well, is in that same sound library that the NES had. So it's a very, they had to come up with their own, probably an 808, something along those lines. The sound libraries were extremely limited as well. So the difference between the bass that we have right now and the guitar that we have right now is that the guitar is just louder and has a little bit of reverb. After that, it's and they are in a different octave. They're in a different register. The guitar's playing up here, the bass is playing down here, and that's about it. That's about it. The rest of it is pretty much the same. The drums is probably playing a different sample in a different sense. It probably has its own different samples for it. But that way you have basically 2 sample libraries, fairly short, fairly simple sound libraries that you are stretching to as much as you can to make sure that you're getting a good music composition. And again, the use of a good melody, of a good motif, it's, sound fun. Yeah, sound fun. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. We repeat A. Yep. B again. B prime again, yeah. So yeah, this whole thing is A, B, A prime, B. It's not even prime, it's just B. And then rinse and repeat these two until the end. This is how you write repeat the section in music notation. Looks a little bit fancier on scores, but yeah. Persona Time, Mario OST, different generations. That sounds fun, but it's Nintendo. It's Nintendo and I don't trust them. But we could do other games probably. Let's see what we do for the outro. The bass. Is it just gonna fade out? Okay, so for the recorded version, it fades out. This is when a fade out makes sense. This is when a fade out makes sense, because the fade out is not something that happened on the game. The game was programmed to be this. Play section A. Play section B. Play section A prime, which the entire difference was a drum fill. Play section B again. Now play section A prime again. Now play section B again. And just continue this back and forth until the player leaves the area, until the level is completed. So for the purposes of production, yeah, we repeated this a couple of times and then we faded it out because there is no ending. There is no ending to this. This is when fade outs made sense. This is a 1989 video game. This is when fade outs make sense to me. This is when I'm going to say, fair play, there was no ending. This piece was not meant to have an ending, and the audio engine would literally, like, if you put the level on in Batman and you just leave it there, it's gonna just play the same music over and over again until you either turn off the console or finish the level. So there you have it. The motif was really fun. The solo section was really fun. It was a really fun track all around, and it is once again proof of how of the engineering ingenuity that you needed for this kind of thing. Really, really cool stuff. I loved this. This was Streets of Desolation from the original Batman NES game, composed by... I had the name here. Hang on, I had the name here. I had the name here. Composed by Naoki Kodaka. Once again, everybody, this has been a Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I am a professionally trained musician, a composer, and I hope that I have explained things in a way that I helped you understand with this. So if you like this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, share, all that stuff. If you want to request a song, make sure you drop a comment with what you want me to do next. Video game music only, original soundtracks only. And yeah, join the Discord. Follow the channel if you want to catch the streams. Go to the Twitch or the Discord. There's a schedule there with your time zones showing and all that good stuff. So yeah, there you go. That was Streets of Desolation from the Batman NES. Good stuff. Really good stuff. But let's